I live a pretty simple life. I'm a single guy in my close to mid-30s. I live in a nice house with 2 roommates. I have a full-time job, and life is relatively simple. Even so, life is hard, man. You know, and maybe I just overthink everything. You wake up, you gotta find a reason to get out of bed. Hard. You gotta brush your teeth. You gotta put on lotion. You gotta floss. You gotta take a shower. You gotta do your hair. You gotta trim up your beard. You gotta manscape if you do that kind of thing. You gotta remember to put on deodorant. You gotta find a chapstick that works. You gotta Q-tip your ears. You gotta put on a beard balm. You gotta put on a sunscreen. You gotta make sure you did the laundry because, you know, you gotta go to work and look presentable and not stink. You know, you gotta find shoes that are comfortable and wide enough for your toes so you don't get bunions when you get older. You know, you gotta find comfortable underwear so you don't get a rash and have to use baby powder like your parents. You go to work for your 8 hours, you put in the grind, and then you get off, and what do? You could go home and chill out, but no. You know, you gotta go to the gym. You gotta stay healthy. You gotta keep the joints moving. You gotta build some muscle, you know, and then what's after that? You gotta make food, you know, you gotta order food, whatever it is. You gotta do something, but you gotta do it kind of healthy. So, you know, you don't put on weight and, you know, you don't have too much sodium and you have enough protein and you have all this and blah, blah, blah and that. And then if you got a side hustle, like I'm writing on my free time, so I gotta make sure I put an hour aside to write, you know, and then you gotta make sure you do all your nightly stuff. If you wash your face, you gotta brush your teeth again, you gotta floss, you gotta do all that. And you gotta, you know, have your post-dinner snack if you wanna get your extra protein in. And it's all of this amalgamation of just stuff that we just do on a daily basis to maintain a semi-decent quality of life.